hold the department over. We appreciate it. My comment is in regards to Kulaupuni. So here's the question. I see that it's going to be moving to the capital, but we had spoken about this. I put money in last year's budget for this. We had walked out there, myself, former director, and Mr. Mamizuka, so that we could look at it. So I just need to know where it would be serviced best. The only reason we do put it sometimes in the operating budget is because operating budget is like petty cash, right? You guys can see it in the line item. You can expend it down. Capital budget, a little bit different to access. Depends on priorities, depends on administrative releases. So where would you say it would go best? Do you think in capital budget it doesn't matter? Or are you guys halfway through this project? Can you give me an idea?
Okay, so the Kulaupuni project should best be with the capital improvement projects with DDC. It will need to get design as well as permitting requirements, and as far as project management, we really don't have a dedicated staff of project managers currently at DFM. So at this point, I think it would best be with DDC and handle to the capital improvement project, because this really is a new storm drain system that will connect into the channel there, the flood control channel.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with your department in DDC, as it was kind of frustrating when I put it in because, we kept getting this signal like, oh, yeah, it's in the works, but I think it is not in the works, to be honest, because when I sat down with the director of DDC, there was not a priority for this. So we shall try again, put into the capital, and then try to babysit all the way along the way to see, so that we can get this done. Very important for the flooding that's happening in that area.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments on page 20? The restorations are back to its request. Okay, for the equipment. Okay, seeing that, okay, council members say.
Yes, Interim Director Sugihara, can you explain to the council, for both Council Member Dos Santos Tam and I, on that Halikuila stormwater issue? What happened? Did the money come from DDC or did it come out of DFM?
The funds for the Halikuila emergency box drain repairs came out of Department of Design and Construction. We did assist with some of the placing of steel plates initially when the sinkhole, and we were involved in the initial investigation. But when we found it was beyond our capabilities, it was transferred over to the DDC.
No, my question is just for this council, do we have the appropriation powers to set aside money for emergencies? So what did DDC do to come up with the $25 million to restore and replace that stormwater culvert? Or did a lot of our council projects that we had add-ons just got pushed to the wayside as far as being deferred? Just wanted to know if, or else is it self-insurance? How you can come up with $25 million to take care of a major emergency? That's the key.
So I'm not really, I guess, aware of the actual funds that were involved. I know there was a tossing out of $25 million, but the specific exactly how much was spent, I'm not sure. That you might want to have design and construction come up to talk on that. But what I understand is that there is very limited, there's no emergency fund for these types of events. And so I think it might have come out of the Rehabilitation of Streets program.
Okay. Maybe, Madam Chair, may I make a request that I send a letter to?
Yes.
But
refuse and collection and disposal, as well as administration for DCS and under Human Services. So Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 24. We have here to accept but amend fund source and amend description to read. This is for ENV, refuse collection disposal. Add funding for current expenses and add proviso at least $90,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for a pilot program at the Kapa'a Quarry Transfer Station to collect and redistribute reusable construction materials and household items. And that funding would go to WFGN? WFGN, and instead of just WF. Okay, so I would like to, if the members can indulge, provide the opportunity to Council Chair Waters for that explanation. Oh, sorry.
Things.
Oh.
Sorry, what?
So sorry. Okay, really quick. We are on page 24, environmental services. We are going to accept but amend fund source under E&V to read, amend description to read, add funding for current expenses, add proviso, at least 90,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for the pilot program at the Kapa'a Quarry transfer station to collect and redistribute reusable construction materials and household items.
Yeah, the idea here is to try to recycle as much as possible. And this is actually in my colleague's Esther Kia'aina's district. But the idea really is to try to reuse as much waste as we can.
Thank you. And members, once again, we are amending the funding code to WFGN. And then members, any questions for the administration for that? Okay. All right, members, on page 24, we also still have administration for DCS. The restoration was similar for both myself and my committee vice chair for those restorations. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so we accept the amendments on page 24. We're still with DCS, with page 25, Office of Grants Management, Elderly Affairs, Work Hawaii, Community Assistance, Community-Based Development. Do we have any questions on this? Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 25. Any comments, questions? Members? Any questions? No?
Chair, may I comment?
I will wait for a member to ask a question for this. Any questions? Okay, Councilmember DePola.
Chair, are we in 25?
Yes, 25.
Okay. I really just wanted to ask about the community-based development. So specifically that, and I know that it bleeds on to the next page, but I just wanted to know for the CBDD funds, how it might affect my district, and if it's restored back to where it was, because I see it was the 1 million, but go ahead, Director, you can answer that. My question is about CBDD.
So thank you for that question. Chair and council members, Anton Krucky, Director, Department of Community Services. We have a very active plan in your district, council member, and we plan on continuing that. All the things that Darrell Young has been working with you on, we continue. I think that there are some structural things that we can change to support your 3R program, but I think there's also within what we're doing some buildings that we can convert for services, and we plan on doing that as well.
In the funds that you have appropriated here, it's the positions, but are you saying that through the community-based development funding, you would use that to acquire a building?
Well, if we were doing a building like that, we'd use CBDG money. That wouldn't be in the budget. Yes,
CGBD would be better for that. And then in regards to the Work Hawaii, because we also utilize those services for the exception of the restoration of the 225567, as well as the current expenses, is that sufficient for the department for Work Hawaii?
We believe it is.
Okay.
And also for the sub-satellite station that's also in your district.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, Work Hawaii was restored fully, as well as, yes. Okay, members, any questions on page 25? Page 25. What? Councilmember Say.
No, I believe Director Krucky had some statements on page 25.
You have a question for the, okay, Can someone ask a question for the director?
It's nice to see you. Are you doing fine today?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Director, could you please provide your comments on page 25?
Thank you, Budget Chair. In the Office of Grants Management, there has been a reduction from the positions that were requested for one for the child care resource position. And this position really is one of the mayor's important initiatives to understand where we're at with child care and the resources needed. It really relates to economic development, it relates to families, it relates to a lot of different things, and it's really about access and affordability. He's already done a draft plan of the activities, and for him to be able to do this draft plan and to execute it, do the community involvement with he's already got 19 nominees on his list for the advisory committee. For him to do that and then come and produce a report, his draft plan has reporting to council in the first quarter of next year. For him to be able to do that without any administrative report is probably not going to happen. I think it's not a good formula for success, and so I respectfully request that you resubmit that position back into the budget.
Thank you for that. And for clarification, we removed one position and kept one position. So out of the two positions, kept one position for early childhood division. And members, any further discussion on this? Councilmember Tupola?
So
Councilmember
currently,
Okimoto?
isn't there one position?
So thank you for that question. The one position that's there is currently being funded by the Hawaii Community Foundation, so that will run out. So we need the funding for that position and for the administrative support.
So you're
we've had the
saying
benefit of having them all year, not really on our dollar.
okay, so you're saying that the funding for the one position would help to carry over the person who's in there.
Yes.
Okay, and I do think our main concern here was that getting that advisory board, so good to hear there's 19 people up for consideration, but having a better and more clear direction of what it is actually going to do is kind of what we were asking. I can see where maybe the assistance is needed, but I think for now, like making sure that we get that clarification before expanding anything, I think would be, I mean, we're pinching dollars and pennies over here, trying to get everything done. So I appreciate you guys putting forth the effort in that. I support the chair's recommendation. Thank you.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Kraki, for being here as well. And I appreciate you clarifying, I guess, even the terminology. When we last had hearings, my concern was from the mayor's state of the city was that the term education was being used, and I know that things were presented to me, and so I just want to be sure. You said child care repeatedly today, and I think that's good for the members to know, but also the public to know that we're talking about essentially daycare. So I support the chair's recommendation, because at this point, when we are trying to balance this budget, we can't. Not everyone, we can't all give everybody everything at this point. So I'd like to see what we can do with the position you have. I'm a parent myself. I understand the purpose, the importance of this, but when we're dealing with, my concern again was that this is not education, because we're not in the business of doing education from the city's perspective. And when we are trying to meet the needs across the board, I don't know how we could possibly give everybody everything. So I would like to see what you can do with the position that you are being granted in this early childhood division, which is to provide child care, and then see where we can go from there.
Thank you for that comment. I really think that to develop an office to bring this up and to develop a plan for the city, to ask somebody to do that without any administrative support, that's what the second position is a really difficult thing to do. Like I said, the goal in his draft plan is to bring a report to you in the first quarter of next year, and I don't think that could happen. So then you'd be short the report that you need to understand what we need to do. And at that point, we can go ahead. I plan on doing these positions with the funding with contracts, so we'd have some flexibility with that.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. Mahalo, Director. And apologies if it was stated earlier when I had to briefly step out, but could you explain a little bit more about why the city's involved in childcare and what that looks like, and where it's coming from?
Well, in the resolutions that have been passed in the ordinances, there's a spot for childcare, and there hasn't been any attention paid to that. And so this administration came in and said, with a lot of constituents coming at him and saying, what's the administration position on childcare? What can we do? It's hard to go to work. It's hard to be in the places we need to be when we can't have childcare. It's too expensive. It's not accessible. And so this is the administration's attempt to put together a plan that for the people of the island that we can understand for childcare and how are we going to approach it? What are we going to do? And so that's really Ted's job to do that, is to put together this plan. And so we went out and we got outside funding from the Hawaii Community Foundation, which was very generous to do that. And now what we're looking to do is to develop that plan. And I have a rough draft of his ideas because we've been in meetings, and that's where the 19 names come up for the advisory group that would be helping them. But really to put together that kind of strategic plan and to pull all that together without any administrative support is kind of beyond what we would ask somebody of the level that Ted is for the kind of strategic thinking he's doing. He needs that administrative support.
I appreciate that. So is the city under any legal obligations to support or advance childcare?
Well, it's stated that that's what we're supposed to be doing. So we haven't done that. So we're trying to fulfill that. And it would be under this department.
Okay, appreciate that, Mahalo. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Members, my amendment does support what is stated in the ordinance to support the one position, and what the advisory board does with its however amount of members there will be. We'll see where it happens thereafter. But I do recognize that Ted is already in that position, and that's the money that I intend to support with this amendment and reduction of one position. Members, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Once again, Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 25. Okay, no comments? Any further comments? Moving forward, page 26. We're still under DCS. I know that Councilmember Tupola brought up a lot of community-based development, but we're still under community-based development yes, okay, so here we have a few amendments, so please indulge me the time to read the descriptions as provided and supported by the city administration. First off, the first line item on page 26, we are accepting but amending description to read, decrease funding to reflect FY 2024 ESG grant amount from HUD, includes amendment to remove amount of ESG matching funding that is budgeted with city funds. Okay, next, it's accept but amend description to read increase funding to reflect FY 2024 HOPA grant amount from HUD. Next line item, accept but amend fund source and amend description to read decrease funding to reflect FY 2024 grant amount from HUD. And then, of course, the next one is accept but amend amount. Thank you again to the city administration for helping with these provisos. Members, Chair recommends the acceptance of these amendments and these proviso amendments. And any comments? Okay, Councilmember Say.
Yes. Madam Chair, are we returning these HUD monies? Because the past 3 years we've been pushing the departments to...
Okay. Thank you. We can ask Director Krucky. Director Krucky, with the change of these provisos and amounts, decreases and increases, what does these do for to and from the HUD,
Thank you for that question. These actually reflect what we actually got from the HUD funding, so this is an appropriate amount to have so it matches out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
At least we're not returning federal monies, right?
When you talk about that, I would add that the CBDG money that we get from the feds, we were able to meet timeliness, but you guys are the now proud owners of a new $6 million unit that we'll be putting out for solicitation of services in Waiiwa. So congratulations on that. That just happened a week ago.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, members, any questions for page 26? Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving forward, page 27. We have the Royal Hawaiian Band as well as Department of Parks and Recreation, Administration, and beginning of Urban Forestry Program. Okay, so with us from the Royal Hawaiian Band, not with us, we have for the Royal Hawaiian Band, sorry, going back. Okay, thank you, everyone. Going back to the restoration for salaries and equipment, then we have the administration, we have restoration, and then we amended the restoration 250,000 for salaries. And then for the administration, let's see here. We have the deletion of the proviso, and then the urban forestry restoration of salaries and current expenses. Members, any questions? Any questions regarding the proviso? Okay. No? All right. Chair accepts page 27. Next, moving on to page 28. We have urban forestry still, as well as maintenance support services. So for urban forestry, we have the amendment, We have the amendment to accept but amend amount and character expenditure and amend proviso to read at least 700,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for the planting of trees on city property island-wide to increase the urban tree canopy and for community engagement with area residents, as well as for restoration of funding and for maintenance and support services. We have, that's it. Okay, I would like to thank Council Chair Waters because he allowed, his amendment in the CD1 has allowed for the community engagement relating to trees. I know sometimes like we all support, the increase in tree canopy and like addressing our heat island, the heat in our island, but the community engagement with residents is absolutely key. So thank you, Chair Waters, for that. Okay, any comments about that? Any community engagement? I want to state that, I guess I have a question for DPR because I know that we have a new urban forestry director or division head. I don't know if that's correct, but I know this is not totally related, but if you could just come up and share that information because I heard it through a community event and I was surprised about that. And is their salary included in the budget? Director Thielen.
Thank you, council members. Laura Thielen on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Yes, I am happy to announce that we do have a new urban forestry administrator. As you folks may know, Stan Oka, the longtime administrator for Duff, did retire. So we had a very competitive recruitment, a lot of good candidates, but we selected Roxanne Adams. Roxanne is a Molokai girl originally. She has had a career in the private sector, public sector, but the last 20 years she spent up at University of Hawaii, where she was the director for the last 10 of their grounds and facilities. Under her leadership, she worked with the people up at the university, and UH Manoa is one of the very few campuses worldwide that is a certified arboretum. So she has a great ability to work with community groups, work with people at all levels. And because she's worked on both facilities as well as the grounds, even though her heart is with the trees, she understands how trees impact built infrastructure. And so I think it's going to be a very good partnership here in the city. And she has a lot of experience to share with her Duff people. They're all familiar with her, so she's hit the ground running already. If I may, council member, the salaries for her position as well as the other positions are back on page 27. And we had 6 positions in Duff that were, quote, never filled, but those had not yet been filled because they were relatively new positions. So they include the community forester position, which we have hired under a contract basis right now and are establishing and getting permission to fill. It includes a recreation specialist, which is the education person for the botanical gardens. We've gone through a selection and selected somebody for that. It includes 4 nursery workers, one of which has actually been selected already. And so if I could put in a last-ditch plea, out of those 6 positions, if we could at least get those 3 filled, that would be an additional about $220,000 for those positions.
Okay, thank you. In urban forestry, I know that you, as opposed to my 700,000, we restored $1 million, and currently you have $1,251,528 in your vacancy funds, not in PVP, but like in your salary vacancy. So with the restoration of $1 million plus your available 1.2, a little more than 1.2 million, will that suffice for the 3 positions?
I think we've been having a great success in filling positions in urban forestry, so we brought in a large number of starter positions in the nursery and landscaping. We recently had a cascade with a number of the more experienced people moving up to arboriculture. So arboriculture had a 30% plus vacancy. It's down now to 13% vacancy, which is great. Nursery and landscaping, that backslid a little bit with the movement, but because we're able to bring in the new people, a little bit more successfully in that area. I understand, though, that you folks are wrestling with trying to be able to bring on, balance the budget. So out of those 6 positions, if we had a preference, we would give up 3 of them and would love to be able to keep the other 3. If not, I'd probably prioritize the community forester position, because that's going to be integral in that one piece that you're talking about now with the tree planting and working with the community engagement. And that's the role of the community forester.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I do, will at least $251,528 account for 3 positions? Because if I were to return $1 million back, which you would have already had, would those 3 positions equate to at least $251,000?
I don't have the precise figures standing here today, but I think if that amount were put back in, we would find the ability to cover for those 3.
Okay. I personally think that you may have enough salary funding, including vacancy funds, plus we have restored a few divisions of yours as well. So I hope that we can work the numbers out throughout the fiscal year. So I'm going to accept this for now.
Okay, and thank you, Chair, very much also for the restoration of the funds. We greatly appreciate that, especially on the, I forget what the CE stands for.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, members, any other questions? Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just wanted to mahalo you for the proviso relating to Council District 3. And I am actually thinking, Director Thielen, that with regard in going down the line, and for my other colleagues, I need to let you know, I know this doesn't sound like a lot of money, but this has been so helpful for my district, and I think that moving forward with regard to the percentage of TAT that we set aside for impact on natural resources, in the next fiscal budget, I'd like to propose that the entire amount be divided equally to all of the districts for similar provisos like this to help in improvements. The fund should not be to replace base funding. It's to be in addition to funds, and I hope that you could work with the administration, because I'd like to propose that you work with us as opposed to us carving out, because you know the needs, but you work with us with a list of the items based on the dollar amount. It's about $900,000 per district. And just work with us and where the needs are. We say, well, this is a need, have you thought about it? Would you be open to such a proposal for next fiscal year?
I think we would like to work with you on coming up with a proposal for those TAT funds. Certainly dividing it between the council districts is an option. One of the other things, though, that might be good is to be able to, we would like to work with you on various ideas. on
Sure,
being
and
able to
maybe
put that
with
out.
the authorizing chair of the Parks Committee, because he also works with you closely on overall, projects. I'm just throwing out ideas because I just want to say that this has been so helpful. Sometimes it could just be fixing a roof, a small roof leak at a park, and it's so important to different parks. And I think that if we were to utilize the TAT funding in a more collaborative way, as opposed to this year, because it went quickly, Budget and Fiscal Services determined the priority. So that's all. Anyway, thank you, Chair.
If I may, just one thing is we do want to find a way to be able to work with you folks to be able to put this money out efficiently. As you've seen in a lot of city operations, we have a staffing limitation on the number of staff that can do certain things or limitation on contracts. So we would want to make sure that we could kind of put out the work, get it all done within that 1-year period in an efficient manner. And if we get spread out in too many different categories and too many small projects, it may become overwhelming. And so we would like to talk with you folks in the interims to make sure that it's something that's set up where we can deliver, because if we could grow too quickly beyond our ability.
That's correct, but I have to say, in the last fiscal year, where I utilized 500,000, I worked very closely with your staff, and we were able to get a lot of wonderful projects in District 3 done, that's all. So I want to just say, I think that we should figure out how to divvy it up across all districts. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, that gave me an idea regarding possible discussions for the Parks Committee to, it's just a recommendation since we have our new urban forestry, and sounds like, is it Division Chief Adams? Is that what, Division Chief Adams could provide for the urban forestry program, and what ideas she has, especially for community engagement as well. It would be so cool to have, because now I get to be on the Parks Committee now, so, I mean, as a voting member. So I would love to see that. So I would like to make that recommendation. If we can have that, shoots, thanks. All right, any members, any other comments on page 28? Once again, the recommendation to accept amendments. Okay, moving forward, we're still in parks, on parks. Our maintenance support services on page 29. We have a few provisos to current expenses here, so please review that. And if you have any questions for page 29, I do want to, let's see here. Some things have come from CIP, and some have gone to CIP, and vice versa. So please review, and if there's any questions, you can provide the comments or questions to Director Thielen. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Director. Thank you for being here. My question, of course, is about Kaupuni Neighborhood Park. It's just about middle of the page there. So definitely an important part. You know, the community is nestled in one of the largest homesteads, Waianae Homestead. The park itself is maintained by the city. The Homestead Association has brought it up to us. The neighborhood board did a resolution for us. So I see that it's going to be moved to Bill 12, but I just wanted comment from you on that. You know, we were super happy about the Keao Beach Park poles and chains that actually are going up as we speak. It's like halfway done. So, you know, we had suggested to put it in the operating because you guys were able to more readily execute it, but update me on your thoughts here, because I know you guys can make this happen.
Thank you, Council Member. So there is at current bit of a dividing line between what we can do in-house in the Park Department and what we rely on DDC to do. So it's when it comes to new improvements, it really is more the Kuleana of DDC. They go through the permitting, they have the engineers, they're able to do the design and the regulatory work. When it's repairing existing structures, if it's repairs that are at a level that we can do, we can go on in and do them where we have master agreements. And so this is the kind of thing that we would want to work with you folks on, because if we don't have a master agreement in place, it takes about a year to get that in place. So it really would not be good to have something go into the operating budget where we're not equipped to be able to go in with that improvement. The bollards are really a little bit of an exception because those are new, but they're not really constructing.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
true.
yeah.
It's true. It's kind of a maintenance. It's not. I understand your response. So I guess my question would be in regards to a long time ago, you know, we talked about the possible park. I don't know what it's called, the fund where particular developers have to give money for certain parks. So I never got a clear answer from BFS, but are there funds in there that are pertinent to my district that we could use there, or are you not aware?
There is a listing in the budget, and I'm sorry, I don't have the in front of me, but where it does list the actual dollar figure and what park has the parks and playground money in it. So I believe there was some money in for Waianae District Park, and so that pot of development fund, which was not a large amount, sometimes these amounts are
It's not
well
too
under
big, yeah.
$100,000, is put in with the CIP funding that's going to the Waianae District Park improvements that are being run by DDC.
Okay, well, I'll look through that, but thank you for that note about this, and I'll look forward to, you know, supporting it in Bill 12. Thank you, Chair.
And then what you look for in the CIP, the coding is PP, the letters PP for Parks and Playground,
Got it.
and that'll tell you what it is.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions for 29? We have here, okay, Councilmember Say.
So Director Thielen, are you in strong support of all of these budget provisos? Because I feel like it's tying your hands. For
A
these
number-
specific parks.
Well,
Because if that was the case and he supports this, we should have all provided provisos also for my 12 parks that I have.
Again, in our comments to the council, we support the administration budget. These provisos are additions to our budget, and while we appreciate it, the administration is presenting to you a balanced budget, which tries to take into consideration, you know, all the department's needs. So we don't want to have things be added to our budget that come at the expense of DFM, who we rely on for electrical, or DDC, whom we rely on for the CIP. So, you know, we appreciate the sentiment that you folks have, but, you know, we tend to support the administration budget when it comes to additions.
Thank you. And with all due respect to the members and the administration, I want to note that I think a lot of these provisos have been worked and discussed with the city administration or the respective, with the city administration as well, as to where we should put these fundings in. Councilmember Wire? Okay. Councilmember Say.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the only reason why I bring this up, because these are going to be in the current expense category. I was very disappointed at the presentation last week in regards to the interdepartmental transfers of salaries to current expense for utility costs. That was a big hit. And the Civil Beat article that I want to tell the administration, are we controlling the cost of electrical costs? That is the concern. And I think we should be more honest and fair when I tell residents of Palolo that my lights in the evening cannot be turned on. I was shocked because I agree with you. If I was to come up with a policy today and we have the discussion, the lights will only be on till 9 o'clock in the evening. And the reason why is because how are we going to control our utility costs? And I hope the department doesn't come back next year to do these type of inter-transfers from one program ID to another and not trying to control all of these costs that we talked about the past 2 years when we were going through the hard times with ARPA and SLRF. So that's the concern I have. You know, don't get me wrong. I would like to see the park lights open till 10, but can we afford it? Because this utility cost went up by 19 million for the whole administration. And I've been harping at DTS, Hart, and others in regards to how we could have cut the cost for electricity for the train. We got to have this kind of open discussion, and I'm just trying to share that with you. We had a great presentation. Vice Chair Kiana, what department came before us with Johnson Controls? You folks are doing Noresco, right? Okay, great. But Johnson Controls is trying to help the city in regards to lowering our kilowatt hours, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I hope next year, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't seen anything in regards to utility cost increase for all of the departments. Maybe it's in the current expense, but what I'm just saying, be aware of what is happening. Because, yeah, we got to figure out what we're going to do. But in the end, you folks have the final say as far as how to get the budget, the budget balanced. And it's our job to get it balanced also. So I just share that thought with you.
So, Councilmember, thank you very much. We did have, because the electrical rates are going up, we did include the increase in electrical rates in our budget request. And thank you, Council, for putting that in. So hopefully that will offset the increase of the rates, which were not in our current year budget. I know the committee that hears the Johnson Control reports, we would be happy to have Noresco, our contract with Noresco for energy savings, come forward to do a presentation to you folks as well, so you can understand better the cost savings that we're going to see both in water as well as electrical, and the physical improvements that we're getting done at the parks, which is not coming at the expense of our capital improvement budget or at the expense of our limited staff in the city. So we really have 3 types of benefits that are coming through the Noresco contract. And again, we'd be happy to do a presentation so you can understand that better as well.
Madam Chair, can I just compliment an individual?
Yes.
Okay, Saturday morning, driving in the valley, I stopped at Palolo Rec Center. And this young man at 7 o'clock in the morning was there opening up our comfort stations, the bathrooms. His name was Daniel, and I just wanted to compliment him. But I also want to compliment you as a department director in addressing the problems we have with our pools. I just heard that he shared with me the thought that we are converting from chlorine to salt to lower the cost of maintaining our swimming pools. So I just wanted to compliment you folks on being creative also. Don't get me wrong. But to have the young man on a Saturday morning, I went to McDonald's to buy my cup of coffee. As I was driving home, I stopped by and talked. Sorry. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, you never share. Okay. Thank you. All right. So, okay, yeah. Wow, I didn't know about that salt, chlorine to salt thing happening. That's a good information to have. Would we be able to find that out on the DPR site?
Yes, that's actually part of the Noresco contract. So they're replacing the pool pumps and also the chlorination system. So it's switching over to a salt system. It'll be less toxic for our workers to be working with, less toxic for the environment, and it's much more pleasant to swim in. So if you go to like the Halekulani, it's not ocean salt water, but it's salt-based chlorinated water. So it's a much more pleasant thing, and it's much less expensive to maintain over time, and it's going to be a great improvement.
And how much do the new pumps cost to because it would be different pumps, right, for chlorination versus salt?
It's new pumps for the entire pool system, and a lot of our pumps were so antiquated that the maintenance crew could not even get parts for it. So the Noresco contract is replacing the entire pump and chlorination system for 14 of our 21 pools.
And what's a Halekulani?
Halekulani is an example of a saltwater pool.
Oh.
I think Les Jardins also has a saltwater pool, and I can't remember some of the other large ones on island. But
Oh, it's not a park.
no, the Halekulani Hotel.
Oh, hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never been there. Okay. I got confused. Okay, thank you very
I
much.
just use it as an example because some people think it's a budget system,
Right,
but
right, right.
it's a very nice system.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, members, any other questions for page 29? Okay, thank you. Okay, accepted. Next, we have page 30. We're still on parks. We have, but also on page 30, we have Department of Enterprise Services, Auditoriums and Administration. We have DTS, Transportation Rail Administration, and the beginning of Transportation Performance and Development. So with that, Does Chair would like to recommend the acceptance of the amendments on page 30. Members, do you have any questions for page 30? Page 30. And maybe this might be where Committee Vice Chair Wire may ask DTS about the question you asked Hart earlier. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So with that, okay. Any members? Okay. Committee Vice Chair Wire for DTS. Is Director Morton here? Oh, no more.
No more. But just for the record,
Okay, we'll wait, hold on. I'll ask if there's any questions for DPR or DES first then. DPR or DES? For recreation services, ground maintenance, and then auditoriums administration for DES. We have Director Pupillo here. Hi, okay. Anything? Okay, well, back to DTS then. Okay, I guess maybe we'll call Director Kawano up on behalf of the city administration.
well, just for discussion, if
Yeah. No, that's okay.
Because I just asked him to come up only if he has any information on the Pearl Highlands Waiava evaluation of parking, busing, and the pedestrian walkway. But we just know for the record that Director Morton has been available in discussing it.
Yeah, he was just here. I don't have any new information on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, appreciate that. And then
Thank you.
we'll continue to talk with DTS about it. And I think Hart today, just for everyone's acknowledgement, and maybe Director Quano too, just given the budget implications, seems that it's mostly in DTS's court in terms of moving forward with the proposed projects. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? We have Director Pupillo here. Parks just left, but okay. Well, we're staying on DTS, so if DTS is able to be present, because I know that we have that one pending, and then I also have, let's see. Okay, all right, we'll continue forward. Once again, members, we are accepting page 30. Amendments on page 30. Okay. Moving forward, page 31, Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 31. This includes DTS's Transportation Performance and Development, Transportation Mobility, and as well as some general provisos, which we'll go through, and the zoo funds, Community Development Fund, the Federal Grants Fund, and one moment, let me get to my proviso. Hold on, it's stuck. Thank you, hang on. Okay. Hold on one moment, guys. Okay, page 31. Okay. Next up, okay, I'm gonna read section 15, which everyone should have, okay? Section 15, but then as you all recall, we talked about reporting mechanism, yeah? So I'm gonna add a new section 16. So please bear with us as we go through that addition. But first off, everyone should have section 15, right? Section 15. Okay, I have to read it, so thank you, everyone. Section 15, monies in the Grants and Aid Fund shall be used first for those projects selected by the Grants and Aid Advisory Commission in Departmental Communication 164-2023, Exhibit A, Appendices 1 through 3, and for administrative expenses. And second, in the event the amount appropriated from the Grants and Aid Fund for projects exceeds the funding necessary for the projects listed in D164, Exhibit A, Appendices 1 through 3, the excess amount shall be appropriated to fully fund the requested amounts of the Young Men's Christian Association and Family Hui Hawaii pro rata, and then for the highest scored projects not recommended for funding as ranked in D164 Exhibit A Appendix 5, and third, in the event the amount appropriated for the Grants and Aid Fund is less than the amount necessary for all the projects recommended for funding in D164 Exhibit A Appendices 1 through 3, the decreased amount shall be applied to the funding for lowest scored projects recommended for funding by the Grants and Aid Commission, provided that such decreased amounts do not conflict with resolution, and this is what the amendment is, okay? It strikes out the Resolution 17201 and replaces it with Resolution 20-263 CD1. Once again, this is the only amendment in this section, the changing of the reference of the amendment, of the resolution. So I just want to make that clear, but I'm reading it all, okay? As may be amended. The amount appropriated from the Grants and Aid Fund for each project shall be the amount recommended by the Grants and Aid Advisory Commission as set forth in the report attached to D164. The Director of Community Services and the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services are hereby authorized to enter into grant agreements relating to appropriations from the Grants and Aid Fund and the use and administration of said appropriations, as well as any other incidental agreements in connection therewith or amendments thereto, to as may be reasonably required, and to expend such appropriations for the purpose described above. So, which is great because we just approved the new GIA commission members, right? Just a few weeks ago. So that's, once again, the amendment in section 15 is just the resolution which they are referred. We are replacing resolution 17201 with resolution 20-263 CD1. Okay, next we have the new section 16 for Bill 11 2023 CD1 proposed CD2. This new section 16 states, and I'll read it slowly. At the same time, the mayor submits the budget documents to the council for fiscal year 2025 as specified in Charter Section 9-102.1. The mayor shall also submit to the council a report for the current fiscal year for each city department addressing incentive payments made for each city department, specifying the amount and position each payment and whether the payment was for recruitment or retention. Okay, once again, I know that we were talking about HPD for incentives and retention and for employees, but we also want to highlight that this is something that the city as a whole must take up so that we can keep increasing our, or I would say decrease our vacancy rates in the city. Okay, if you would like for me to read it again, let me know. Okay, once again, that's relating to the discussion that we had for incentives and for employee recruitment and retention and reporting requirements. Okay, so with that, I would also like to provide any comments or questions for this. Okay,
Chair,
yes, Councilor DiPaula.
questions about this?
Yes.
Okay. I have a specific question about Section 15 for the grants and aid and the departmental communication. Is that appropriate to ask right now?
Sure, yes.
I'm not sure who would answer it, though, but because I do think it would have to be DCS, right? Okay.
May I ask your question? Maybe someone from the administration may assist.
Sure. Yeah. So specifically on this, it has it itemized for each of our council districts. And so if there's 37 pages here. So I think for each of our council districts, it outlines. So I guess my question, and someone could just write this down, or I'll email the director, but was about, there's a handfuls of ones that are listed in my district that are not from my district, but I'm just wondering how it was decided as far as which ones were considered a possible Council 1 proposal versus a Council District 2 proposal, but I'll try to go over that with them. I'm glad that we read through this because I read through all of the links. And so definitely the recommendation from the GIA Commission is noteworthy. Having us bring it down to 150,000 would allow for more people to possibly qualify. So something for our consideration as well. So I'll follow up with the department on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any other questions and comments on the acceptance of page 31, including the 2 sections that we went over? Okay, if not, moving forward to page 32, Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 32 for Federal Grants Fund, General Improvement Bond Fund, Transit Fund. Okay, Thank you, members. Chair, moving forward, Chair would like to recommend to accept the amendments on page 33 for Transit Improvement Bond Fund, Federal Grants Fund for CIP Heart only. Any comments, questions? Okay, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I note that these last couple pages are for revenue side items, and I don't know when the appropriate time to bring up some of the revenues that DPP had estimated in the original budget book, but I do have some notations on that. I'll likely be submitting a worksheet to better reflect more accurately the expected building permit fees as well as fines that DPP is expected to collect, and hopefully that helps to offset some of the things that we'd like to add.
Understood. Thank you. But do you have any specific questions for BFS maybe to assist with some of the possible questions regarding revenue?
Not at this time, but we'll submit a worksheet and
Okay.
they can look at that.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much. Okay, members, I would like to call for a recess before we move on. Before we move on to remote testimony, as I have to determine some computations right now. Thank you. Recess subject to call the chair.